It's hard to put into words, Michael. But the moment I lost consciousness, I didn't feel pain. I felt weightless, like I was floating upward. But it wasn't just a sensation of movement. It was as if I was being pulled towards something vast and infinite. The world around me shifted instantly. There was no darkness, no tunnel, nothing like people often describe. Instead, there was light everywhere, not harsh or blinding, but warm, comforting, like sunlight on a summer morning. And then, suddenly, I could see myself from above. I saw my body lying on the floor, my daughter kneeling beside me, crying. My husband was rushing into the room, shouting for help. Everything was happening in real time, but I wasn't afraid. I knew I was still connected to them somehow, but I also knew I wasn't meant to stay. I felt a presence, gentle yet powerful, guiding me forward. It wasn't a voice exactly, more like a feeling, an awareness that I was safe. And then everything changed again.
What do you mean by everything changed? What happened next?
I don't know how to explain it. It wasn't like stepping into another place. It was like stepping into another existence entirely. Time stopped making sense. Space didn't matter anymore. I wasn't moving forward, yet I was going somewhere. And then suddenly I was standing in a landscape unlike anything I'd ever seen. It was beautiful, more beautiful than any place on earth. The sky shimmered with colors I can't even name. And the ground beneath my feet felt solid, yet weightless, like walking on polished glass infused with light. There were towering structures that looked like temples made of crystal and gold, glowing softly from within. I could feel a presence all around me, not threatening, but immense. Like the very air was alive with something divine. I wasn't alone. Beings surrounded me, though they weren't human in the way we understand. They radiated peace, wisdom, and unconditional love. I didn't hear them speak, but I understood them completely. They weren't leading me anywhere specific. They were simply there, watching, guiding, existing. And then I realized I was in heaven. The first thing I noticed was the overwhelming sense of love. It wasn't just an emotion. It was tangible, surrounding me like a warm embrace. Every part of me felt known, accepted, cherished. Then, ahead of me, a figure began to emerge. I say emerge because it wasn't like he appeared out of nowhere. Rather, he was always there. And my perception of him became clearer as I focused. He didn't look like any image we've seen in paintings or movies. He wasn't bound by physical form, yet he had a presence that was unmistakably personal. His face was radiant, not just bright, but filled with an indescribable warmth. When he looked at me, it felt like every fear, every doubt, every hidden part of me was laid bare, yet met with absolute compassion. As he reached out his hand, I felt a rush of understanding flood my mind. It wasn't words exactly, but a knowing, an awareness that I was loved beyond measure, that my life had meaning beyond what I could grasp, and that everything I had ever done, every choice, had shaped me into the person I was meant to be. In that moment, I understood why I was there, why I had been given this experience. It wasn't just for me, it was for others too.
That sounds like an incredibly profound moment. How did you feel afterward?
After meeting God, the experience didn't end, it expanded. I felt myself moving upward, not physically, but in a way that defied earthly logic. It was like passing through layers of existence, each one more luminous and profound than the last. The first realm I entered was breathtaking. Vast landscapes filled with rivers of light, trees that glowed softly, and structures that seemed to pulse with energy. I recognized some of these descriptions from scripture, particularly the third heaven mentioned in the Bible. There was a sense of holiness here, an unspoken reverence that made me feel both small and infinitely significant. As I moved higher, the scenery changed. The second realm was more structured, filled with towering temples and sacred halls that exuded divine knowledge. I could feel the presence of ancient wisdom, radiating from these places as if the very architecture held the memories of eternity. I wasn't allowed to enter most of them, but I sensed that those who had lived lives of great spiritual depth would reside here, continuing their growth beyond the limits of mortal understanding. Then came the final ascent, the highest realm. Words fail me when I try to describe it. It wasn't just lighter beauty, it was pure essence, pure truth. Time ceased to exist. All distinctions between self and others dissolved. It was the source, the origin, the ultimate reality. And yet, even in that boundless infinity, I never felt lost. I felt whole. As I moved through these realms, I began to notice other souls. Some gathered in quiet groups, others drifting peacefully through the landscape. Unlike the divine beings that guided me, these were individuals who had passed away, each residing in a space that felt uniquely suited to them. One of the most striking moments was when I saw a group of young children playing together in a field of golden light. They laughed and ran freely, their joy untainted by sorrow. A gentle presence watched over them, perhaps guardian spirits or angels, and I felt an overwhelming sense of comfort knowing that they were safe, happy, and thriving. Further along, I encountered adults engaged in what seemed like meaningful conversations, sharing stories and insights. Some carried an aura of wisdom, while others radiated a quiet serenity, as if they had found peace after a lifetime of struggle. I noticed that each soul seemed to be placed according to their spiritual maturity, as though they were continuing their journey in a way that aligned with their growth. There were also those who stood apart, observing rather than engaging, as if they were contemplating something deeper. I couldn't help but wonder if they were reflecting on their past lives or preparing for whatever came next.
Did any of these encounters leave a lasting impression on you?
Yes, one of the most profound moments was when I experienced a life review. It wasn't like watching a movie. I was inside the memories, reliving them with perfect clarity. Every action, every word, every intention played out before me, not just from my perspective, but from the perspectives of those I had interacted with. I saw moments of kindness, times when I had lifted someone up, when I had chosen compassion over judgment. Those moments felt warm, like golden threads woven into the fabric of my existence. But I also saw the times I had fallen short, the moments of selfishness, of fear, of failing to act when I should have. Those weren't punished, but they were acknowledged, and I felt the weight of how they affected others. What surprised me most was the realization that the greatest measure of a life wasn't grand achievements or material success, but the love we give and receive. Every act of kindness, no matter how small, had ripples that extended far beyond what I could see. Even the smallest gesture of compassion created a kind of eternal resonance.
That's a powerful realization. Did this change how you viewed your own life? The impact of prayer, kindness, and choices.
Yes, absolutely. During the life review, I saw how every prayer I had ever uttered, whether answered or seemingly unanswered, had left an imprint. Prayer wasn't just about asking for something. It was a connection, a bridge between my soul and the divine. Even the prayers I had forgotten, the ones whispered in moments of desperation or gratitude, had been heard. And not only heard, felt. Each one had contributed to my spiritual growth in ways I hadn't fully appreciated before. Kindness, too, revealed itself in a new light. I saw how even the smallest acts, offering a smile to a stranger, helping a student who struggled, giving a few extra minutes to listen to someone in need, had created waves of impact far beyond what I could perceive in life. It wasn't about recognition or reward. It was about the energy of love being set into motion, touching lives in ways I would never fully know. And choices, those were perhaps the most sobering part of the experience. I saw how each decision, even the seemingly insignificant ones, had shaped my path. Fear-based choices closed doors, while love-driven choices opened them. I realized that we are constantly shaping our spiritual journey with every step we take, every word we speak, every thought we hold.
That's such a powerful perspective. How did this shift your understanding of free will and responsibility?
Coming back was the hardest part. When I returned to my body, it was like plunging into ice water, sudden, jarring, and disorienting. The warmth, the light, the sense of belonging, it all vanished in an instant. For days, I felt disconnected, struggling to reconcile what I had experienced with the reality of being back in my physical body. But with time, the message became clear. I wasn't just shown heaven for my own enlightenment. I was given a mission. The overwhelming love I felt, the revelations about prayer, kindness, and the power of choice, the understanding that every action matters, these weren't meant to stay with me alone. I was meant to share them. So I began speaking openly about my experience, not to convince anyone, but to offer hope. To remind people that they are loved beyond measure, that their actions matter, and that life has a purpose greater than they might realize.